Car Club Racing Championship is underway. Better start there by the multicoloured car of Graham Crowhurst from the outside of the front row. Mark Burton has indeed made a good start in that less powerful M2 class car, and he is up to second position. He's got ahead of Niall Bradley as well, who's gone down to third place, and they all stream through Riches for the first time.
Bradley's off.
He is off, so he's lost several places now, so it's Crowhurst leading, Burton in second, Brian Bransom, the local driver, in third place. Ollie Neves is fourth, Paul Travers is in fifth, and Stephen Schreikart in the first class 6 car is up to sixth place.
Yeah, so the order is mixed already after just a couple of bends, and perhaps more crucially, they're getting the cars off the line. Like you say, less wheel spin for cars with not so many.
Was Burton in the lead there? He is. Mark Burton's in the lead.
Well, this is pretty remarkable stuff then, isn't it? So, yeah, I'm sure Mark Burton would love a win at the race, and they're both running wide, trying to find the grip here. Snetterton is known to be pretty slippery in difficult conditions, and I think we are finding that out during the course of this. Well, green flag, side by side as Crowhurst comes back, but Burton around the outside of Crowhurst, who has he grabbed the lead back? Well, not yet. They are wheel to wheel, and Mark Burton, and Crowhurst is locked up, is he? Desperately trying not to run into the back of Mark Burton. He spins, Ryan Crowhurst spins out of second position, and he's got to be careful not to clatter into anyone as he rejoins Ian.
Yeah, he's lost, I think, about 3 places there. Paul Travers has just got in ahead of him as well in his M2 class car as well. He's just ahead of the class 6 leader, Stephen Schreikart, and now he's got Niall Bradley on his recovery after going off the road at Riches. He's going to be right behind Crowhurst as well. In a straight line, you'll see that Crowhurst should be able to get past Travers again. But for the lead, it's Burton, and he's a bit crossed up going into Brundle and Nelson.
He's not going off.
He's not going off. You thought he was going off, Josh, but he didn't. He's still there in the lead of the race. So it's Burton that leads. In second place, it is Brian Bransom. Third is Ollie Neves. Fourth is Graham Crowhurst. Fifth is Niall Bradley. Sixth is Paul Travers.
Yeah, so that was a lively moment for Mark Burton. He had a huge moment through Brundle. I was convinced he wouldn't be able to slow the car down for the right-hander, but he did, impressively. But Brian Bransom is going after him, so he's an invitational car, Bransom. So I'm sure a overall victory could be on the cards. He's a local driver. He's done a lot of racing here at Snetterton, as Niall Bradley goes off again. Perhaps that local knowledge for Brian Bransom coming into effect. He's going to challenge for the lead on the run up towards Ritchie's, and then Brian Bransom then will take the lead into Ritchie's corner. Can he make it stick though? Mark Burton is desperately late on the brakes. He's sideways. There is full commitment here from Mark Burton. And the car hasn't raced huge amounts in. This is the car, is it not that Imran Khan and Andrew Lightstead won the Club Enduro Championship in, I think. Yeah,
330 BMW, and around the outside he goes at Wilson Hairpin. Bransom, who's going to be quicker in a straight line when he does get the opportunity to get the power down, but through the corners, Mark Burton in this 330 is absolutely mighty. We're taking almost the karting line there around Palmer's, and it's worked out for him. He's now several car lengths ahead of Bransom. Crowhurst up to third, Bradley fourth, and now Ollie Neves back to fifth.
So you need a lap chart per corner in this race, let alone at the end of the lap. Bransom, interestingly, taking the tighter line, but I don't think it's a tick. Oh, he might have a go this time. He's got the traction, and this time Brian Bransom is alongside, but we know Mark Burton is rather brave in the 330, but perhaps this time Bransom has done it as a twitch out of the corner. Well, Burton is sideways too, but it looks like Brian Bransom has done it, so he takes the lead of the race. He's sideways. Mark Burton will fight back. He's on the inside line. He's side by side with Brian Bransom, the local driver on the outside. Burton is sideways. He loses the lead then, so Brian Bransom has done it then in this car that was repaired ahead of this event by Generation Bodyworks, who are based nearby, and Brian Bransom takes the lead of the race, and he's got past Mark Burton. That big slide for Burton has slowed him up, and may well allow Graham Crowhurst to come through into second.
It does. Crowhurst takes second place there along the Bentley straight into Brundle, so it's Crowhurst now second, Mark Burton in third. Fourth is Niall Bradley in the white and green number 47 car. 5th, I think, is that still Ollie Neves? Yes, it is. And 6th is Paul Travers in the 2nd of the M2 class cars. So it's the invitation class car in the overall lead of the race now.
Ooh.
Brian Branson.
There's a lot of water on the curbs, and Burton found it, had a huge moment again. But Crowhurst has recovered pretty quickly, hasn't he? So he's catching Branson at a rate, I would suggest. So Crowhurst could still win this. Of course, he's leading his class, so for points, Branson doesn't matter. Oh, and if we had the first accident of the race, that's out of Williams.
So that's Ken Van Houen in the 325 Ti.
Perhaps he avoided the barriers. He's got back going. Meanwhile, the leaders, there's going to be a challenge into turn 1 here. Into Ritchie's. Here comes Crowhurst on the inside. He was 3 seconds quicker than Branson on the last lap, but Branson hangs on. He's still ahead.
We've had the change for 3rd, though. Niall Bradley getting ahead of Mark Burton as they came over the line. So Bradley up to 3rd.
And the fastest lap, too.
Yeah, so watch out for him. And now pin 2, Wilson Hairpin. Are we going to get the change? I think we are there. Graham Crowhurst goes through. So the number 15 car of Graham Crowhurst retakes the lead of the race then from number 126, Brian Branson. And it's now Bradley, number 47, in 3rd.
Yeah, the graphic there confused me. It's not quite accurate. The Steam Strike Card hasn't set the fastest lap of the race. So that has gone the way of Niall Bradley. There he is, the driver with the fastest lap, Bradley, 2:35.4. Crowhurst trying to get away. They are the two drivers that have won all the races this season. Branson trying to hold Bradley back. Bradley, though, finds the gap, and Branson gives him the room. He doesn't want to have a damaged car again. He doesn't want to spend more money just yet. So he's dropped down into 3rd position, and that means Bradley is up to 2nd. So how far behind? He was a couple of seconds behind Crowhurst. It looks like it could be less than that now. Lap times, by the way, 2 minutes 35. That's half a minute slower than what they were doing earlier this afternoon. That is how tricky it is.
So they're turning their way out of the right-hander.
They were turning, but not in a right-hand movement. They had full opposite lock on.
They were indeed. So there's Branson in the 126 off, the Norwich man. See other cars in the background turning their way out of Agostini there. Here's Graham Crowhurst though, heading into Brundtland Nelson with Niall Bradley behind him. So these two 1st and 2nd now. 3rd is Branson. 4th is Mark Burton still in the Class M2 leading car, 330. And then it's quite a long gap back from Burton to whoever it is in 5th place. Whether that's still Ollie Neves or not, I'm not quite sure. We'll no doubt pick up on that shortly. We're working lap 3 of this race, which has had 7.5 minutes elapsed already. The lap times at the moment are in the 2:35s for the leaders compared to the 2:03s in the earlier race. Graham Crowhurst doing a 2:03 to set the fastest lap. So that's sort of half a minute off those lap times in these conditions.
There's a huge margin, isn't it, of differential, which is actually usually the case, it has to be said, on this layout. 2:34.5 for Crowhurst, a new best. He's 2.2 seconds ahead of Niall Bradley with Branson and Burton in chase. And then this big gap back to, is it Paul Travers? He's got himself up ahead of Ollie Neves, who probably hasn't driven this car very much in the wet and is struggling a little bit. So Paul Travers, who's doing a decent job to be fair, they're in 5th position and he's 3:30. Not a driver with the type of success in other categories that Mark Burton has had.
Stephen Schreikart's now up to 7th place because we may have lost, Colin Whitmore's just lost a couple of positions, I think, on that lap. It was the fact that Schreikart and Grange were just lapping quite a bit quicker than Whitmore. He's now dropped down to 9th place. Mark Collins was just in a personal best lap up into 10th. He's gone. As the two leaders now pretty much together. 2.2 seconds was the gap at the beginning of the lap, but it's not that now.
No, Bradley then chasing. No, Bradley chasing the car in front. He was the 2021 champion in this class. Graham Crowhurst was last year's champion in the M1 class as well. But like you said, that gap's come down. This is the point, True Oggies, where the cars really do get sideways as they try and put all that power through the rear wheels. But they're both controlling the cars after they both had off-track excursions on the opening lap. We saw now Bradley on the grass at Ritchie's. We saw Graham Crowhurst rotate at that corner at Oggies. So they've both had their moments, but they are back in front. They are leading the way. In these conditions, perhaps there'll be a little bit less lap traffic than earlier. There'll be less laps in the race. We had 10 earlier. We're not going to get that many in this time because already we've had half the race and we're only on lap 4. So Graham Crowhurst, watch out for the curves because they are containing the moisture more than the tarmac. And through Coram. Now this, you won't be flat out through here today or in these conditions in these cars. So they'll be coming out of the throttle and then getting the car slowed down for Murray to get it turned in. They're not putting the power on, but not too much, not trying to get too much wheel spin. Perhaps changing up a gear early before the revs get too high. And towards the end of the lap, Crowhurst has pulled the margin back out to almost to what it was. Not quite, but it's 1.8 seconds. But the first half of the lap, it certainly came down. Then Crowhurst a bit quicker in the second half of the lap, Ian.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? So 1.86 seconds, the margin at the end of the lap. 6.5 seconds now behind the leaders is Brian Branson in the orange car that's just been shot. This rain is quite persistent now, isn't it? It's reasonably heavy as well. And so there's no real significant improvement in the lap times. Bradley's done a 2:33.69, but we're not finding sort of seconds or even huge amounts of tenths each lap.
Yeah, it's getting wetter, but perhaps not actually less grip because
yes.
As it gets wetter, it starts to become a little bit more. Oh, look at the background! Branson had a huge slide, but I think he held on to it, did he not?
He did, yes.
But that's a quick corner, really, Palmer. Now, in the first half of the lap again, is that where the advantage is for Noel Bradley? Is he quicker through this first part of the lap? It feels like he may be. Then Crowhurst in this BMW art car livery, replicated the cars that raced in the Le Mans 24 Hours in the late 2000s with, I think people probably like Jörg Müller at the wheel in those days. But it is then possibly Andy Prio too. It's Graham Crowhurst then that leads the way, but like Ian was telling us earlier, not such an easy livery to put together yourself, but he's made it work, I think, pretty well.
No, it looks good, doesn't it? And especially in these lighting conditions, that it seems to shine out particularly clearly. Headlamps on for Graham Crowhurst here, and after Noel Bradley's victory and run, looking to equalise, make it 5 wins apiece from the 10 races that we'll have had during the course of this season. Because Bradley missed a meeting, Crowhurst a bit further ahead in terms of the point standings in the championship. Bradley missing the event at Croft.
It was 2010 BMW produced this livery for Dirk Werner, Dirk Müller and Andy Prio in the Le Mans 24 Hours in the GT2 class, as it was then.
So coming through to complete another lap, and they're starting to get into some traffic as well any moment. Crowhurst completes 5 laps, he's in a 2:32.5 now, and Bradley also into the 2:32s, a 2:32.93, but the gap going out to 2.29 seconds now, first to second, and they are going to start lapping some of the Cup class cars, I think.
They're a lot quicker than Branson. He's there he is.
Yeah, he did a 2:37 that time. Not actually his best lap, but his best lap is a 2:37.
Perhaps with no championship to worry about, not worrying about risking the car in these tricky conditions. There he is. On dry setups too, probably, because it was dry when they went out there. So there he is. So in this car that was prepared, I think, last week by Ashley and Wayne Bryant at Generation Bodyworks, I think about half an hour or so away from the track, and Branson fighting this car, it's sliding around, but he's been able to hang on to the car there, down the straight, past the restaurant at Tyrrell's, into the hairpin at Agostini, slices up the inside of Ken Van Howen, who had that spin early on, so he has been lapped, but I think it'll be a little while before they get any more in.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. As we watch the Brian Branson car head through Hamilton here, he's about 11 seconds or so clear of Mark Burton in 3rd place.
I wonder if he's just enjoying himself with the slides, or if it's a bit horrible to drive. Can't really work out which one it may be.
No, it's difficult to say, isn't it? But it's almost losing it again there. Rear wheel off onto the curb and the damp grass. So he's fighting it either for good or for bad. It's hard work, whatever, for Brian Bransom. Still to say, Stephen Schweikart still ahead in Class 6 in 8th place overall. And the Cup class has Gareth Thomas ahead again in 15th place overall. William Lake is 2nd and Paul Neville 3rd within that class.
So Bransom into Brundle and into Nelson. Power on, out of the corner. Leaders up at Coram, similar gap for them. We're going to get two laps at the end of this one. So it'll be an 8-lapper for the BMW Car Club Racing Championship, which still has a couple of meetings to go at Brands Hatch and at Donington Park. Brands Hatch will be a very different meeting because there'll be a lot of lap traffic around there on the Indy circuit.
Yes.
And also at that meeting is the Ultimate BMW race, isn't it? So if you have a BMW and would like to take part, you don't have to fit into the regulations of the Car Club Championships there. That race was at Donington last year. Brands Hatch this season in 4 weeks' time, I think.
Yeah, over the bank holiday weekend, isn't it? At the end of August.
Yeah, on the Saturday.
So we are coming towards the end of this BMW Club Racing Championship race, working the penultimate lap. Now there is Mark Burton in 4th place, early leader of this race, of course. I think he would have enjoyed that, but has now just settled down into a routine and a rhythm, I think. He's half a minute behind the leads now. Oh, and off has gone David Morris, number 96, off onto the grass.
That one's a bit more damaged than the earlier one.
It is, and I think he's probably just realised that and he's just going to try and park it up against the barriers there.
And you can see from the barriers that that part of track is not the first person to have an incident there over the years. It's a little way out the corner, but when drivers run wide at Williams, out over the curve, so then the back end goes and you've got no chance of saving it generally, and you end up clattering the inside barriers. You've seen a lot of that over the years on this layout. Back to Mark Burton though, he's looking for win number 6, I think, on the season within the M2 class. I imagine he's probably disappointed he hasn't had Lee Pearcey to race against, because those two would be pretty evenly matched. On occasions, Pearcey's been the quicker. Meanwhile, for the lead, Noel Bradley has closed in with that traffic potentially, which they have now found the next group to get through. This is going to be a tricky moment for Crowhurst. He's got Bradley coming up the inside, but there's a slower car there. But Crowhurst potentially run out of room on the outside. They're side by side, and Bradley's done it, Ian.
Yeah, Bradley's done it. They had to go either side of William Lake there through Nelson. And Lake being the operative word in this race because of all the rain, but it's now Bradley that's gone back through, taking advantage through the traffic. Crowhurst not going to take this line down, I don't think. Should just be a lap to go at the end of this one, because we've already had 18 minutes of the allocated 20, and Bradley's off the road at Murray's, and Crowhurst will go back through. He was very sideways, the car then just off the circuit, and Crowhurst said, thank you very much, I'll take that. I will go back through, and in fact it's the checkered flag this time, so a couple of minutes early. No chance for Bradley to try and come back. It's Graham Crowhurst that takes the win then by 1.35 seconds in the end.